Hi there, Frank Winston here for the Pacifica Historical Society, host of our weekly show, Footprints of Pacifica, where we discover and explore the lure and the lore of lovely Pacifica, its character and its characters. This show is a tribute to and a remembrance of our dear friend, Congressman Tom Lantos. He loved Pacifica, he loved the county, but most important, he loved people. He was an advocate with passion for human rights all over the world. He was respected by his colleagues in the Congress, and indeed, he was the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. In last November, he read to the Congress tributes to Pacifica because of its 50th anniversary celebration, and he reminded us of what we have become, and clearly through much of his effort for over 25 years. The Devil's Slide issue, the issue of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, which was not merely an issue, but it's a monument now to our trails and our shores and our people. There is something about Pacifica that made Tom Lantos love us, and tonight we remember how we loved him.
To start the program, I would like to introduce our distinguished representative, Congressman Mr. Tom Lantos.
Good evening, everybody. Yesterday morning, when Annette and I were still in our Washington office, I did not realize that this particular visit home will prove to be a cavalcade of birthdays. Last night, in the magnificence of San Francisco City Hall, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the Teamsters. The Teamsters started much earlier than that. They had various organizations around the gold rush. Some of them did well for a while, then they folded. But 100 years ago, the current organization of the Teamsters, the Joint Council, was created. And it was a joy to pay tribute not only to the Teamsters, but to American labor, which built this country. A half hour ago, we were at the Croatian Cultural Center celebrating the 150th anniversary of the presence of Croatian Americans in this country. Annette and I have a particular affection for Croatia because, as many of you know, the Dalmatian coast is one of the great wonders of this globe. Competes with Pacifica, may I say, and doesn't beat Pacifica, competes with Pacifica. And we have been going there for many, many years with our children and grandchildren. And now, tonight, it's our pleasure and our honor to say happy birthday, 50th birthday, to the city of Pacifica. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about the city of Pacifica because I still remember in 1769 when Don Gaspar de Portola discovered this magnificent community. They didn't call it Pacifica at the time. He went up to Sweetie Ridge, and from Sweetie Ridge, he, for the first time, spied the magnificence of San Francisco Bay. It is my great pleasure to have been able to incorporate Sweetie Ridge as one of the additions of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, and it was my good fortune to name it the most beautiful spot here, the Plymouth Rock of the West Coast. Now, Annette and I lived here, of course, when Pacifica was incorporated. We lived on the other side of the mountain at 746 Cherry Avenue in San Bruno, and it was our joy to bring our two little daughters over here to see this magnificent, unique, attractive, exciting community. I always found that the political vitality of this town matches its natural beauty. I well remember my friend, your first mayor, Gene Fassler, who ushered in an era of feminine participation in political life. When Gene became mayor of Pacifica, we were only dreaming about having the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, be the first woman speaker in the history of the United States. And I well recall that a few years ago, with no disrespect to my friends on the other side of the male-female division, you had, I believe, the only city council in the United States which was made up of all women. The fact that this community, really a whole slew of communities combining into the city of Pacifica, continues to be the cutting-edge community of the whole peninsula is a well-known fact. I want to close by paying tribute to all of you for making this probably one of the most vibrant political community, certainly in California, and one of them in the whole United States. You are always at the cutting edge. You are always exploring for new dimensions, new solutions, new opportunities. And it's been my pleasure and Annette's pleasure to serve you for over half of your corporate existence. Let me just say, I look forward with great pleasure, as all of you do, to cutting the ribbon on the $300 million tunnel project, which, as you know, is well underway. So, from Sweetie Ridge to Devil's Slide, you have been a fantastic community to work with, and I look forward to doing so for another 27 years. May I, on behalf of the Congress of the United States, present your distinguished mayor a congressional citation which he and you will read at your leisure.
We are delighted to be here for this wonderful birthday.
I would like for us to take a moment to reflect on an extraordinary life of Congressman Tom Lantos. So a moment of silence. I think for all of us who have known Congressman Lantos for as long as we have, we see him in one way. We see him as our local congressman. But as I observed the tributes that came in across the world in honor of him, and to watch on the internet the memorial service for him on Valentine's Day, I couldn't, I was so taken up by the great stature that he had gained around the world. And I just want to share a couple of quotes of people who spoke about Congressman Lantos. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice called him the epitome of a true American hero. She called him an irreplaceable mentor to her. I can see him at those committee hearings, she said, looking at us with those piercing yet compassionate eyes and say, all right, you can pause for a moment to remember me, but then you must resume the struggle. Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, called him a champion of our common humanity. Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel referred to him by saying, when victims of society, when prisoners of destiny felt defenseless, abandoned, neglected, humiliated, and desperate, they had in you, Tom Lantos, a defender. And his grandson, I think, captured Tom in the best way of all. He said when they were all sitting or standing around his hospital bed and he was dying, and there were tears running down the members' faces, the family members' faces, Tom said, "You wouldn't be crying if you knew how happy I am." Remarkable dignity in the way he lived his life and in the way he died. And you should take great pride in knowing that in one of his very last visits to this district, to this community that he represented for 28 years, he came to Pacifica, to the Pacifica Democrats, and had a stirring conversation with all of you about his work on a federal level. Well, we were very lucky. We've had some extraordinary people represent us in Congress.
Tom was a great advocate for Pacifica, and all you have to do is look around to open space in this great community to know that he had his hand in making sure that Sweeney Ridge got set aside as part of the GGNRA, that Maury Point was set aside, and obviously to make sure that transportation between Pacifica and Half Moon Bay could be done in the most environmentally sensitive way by helping to get the funds to build the tunnel, which hopefully will be named in his honor in a short period of time. Tom was just fascinating to watch. He had to have been one of the most erudite, articulate orators in the Congress. So I would love to sit at functions where we were both at and listen to him speak, and I learned a great deal from just watching him. Our careers started at about the same time in 1980. He was then running for the congressional seat, and I was running for the Board of Supervisors. So we would meet every week at Alliance Restaurant in Millbrae over breakfast to talk about our campaigns, talk about how we could help each other. And I remember that with great fondness. Of course, then he served for 28 years in a most remarkable fashion.
People that worked for Tom were part of his family, and so it's been a very important part of my life to have the opportunity to be in his staff and serve him and serve the constituents of the 12th District. One of the things that I will always remember about Tom Lantos is his optimism, a man who escaped the Nazis and the communists and came to America as a Hungarian immigrant and ended up being a professor at San Francisco State for 30 years before he started a 30-year career in Congress. People would say to Tom, "Oh, the world is so bad, there's so many horrible things going on," and he would laugh and he would say, "This is a windy corner of history." But things will get better because he had faith in the goodness of man and the ability to overcome problems, and he had faith in the government's ability to represent the people and do right by the people. And it was a great privilege to work for him, and I think the world will miss him. One of the last public appearances he made was here at the Pacifica Democrats in November. He loved Pacifica. I had the good opportunity to drive him occasionally as a staff member, and we would be driving along and he would look out the window in Pacifica and along the coast and just marvel at the beauty of it and talk to his wife Annette about, and he would just say, look at this, look at how beautiful it is here. And I know that he adored Pacifica for its uniqueness and for its political activism.
Regarding Tom Lantos, Congressman Lantos, every time I went to visit him, he was always very cordial, as was his staff. Compassion just reeked through the gentleman. You always felt that the compassion was there and that he was listening, and that for you to follow through would not be to be bothering him, but would be helping him. Regarding environmental issues, I've heard him speak throughout the county on environmental issues, and I was tremendously proud. And more than proud, great respect, because sometimes even on environmental issues there was antagonism towards those things, and yet he would stand strong, always dignified, always straight to the point, and gave reasons that made sense. He was compassionate, that he was for the people, he did his homework, he knew his facts, and he wasn't afraid to stand up and say, regardless of even pressures within his own party and other parties.
Well, you know, I've known Tom Lantos for a very long time. In fact, my whole family knows him. And the one thing that really struck me about the congressman, and I dealt with him for years because of the police chief in San Mateo. He was, in fact, he had his office, his local district office in the city of San Mateo. And whether I came to him with an issue about a homeless Vietnam veteran, or whether he was out in Libya trying to get them to lay down their nuclear arms, he brought the same passion, the same tenacity, and the same fight for what is right and for the underdog. And I have seen that throughout the years with him, and it is a tremendous loss, and we greatly honor and respect him. So to the family and to all of his constituents who knew him so well, I join in saying we loved you, Tom, and we thank you for what you did.
My parents knew him pretty well, and I'd been communicating with his office. I went through an interview with him, and he gave his primary nomination to send me to the Naval Academy. I think he did incredible things for the Middle East, just how he dealt with Israel and everything like that. And he's done amazing things for the service members. He's very supportive, and my family really appreciates that. I really appreciate it.
Tom Lantos left a great legacy, specifically in Pacifica. He's been instrumental throughout the years in a variety of different environmental open space protection, Devil's Slide tunnel funding, a whole range of issues that have relevance to Pacifica. He was instrumental in Sweeney Ridge becoming part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, and was there for the dedication day when I had the accidental honor of being mayor at the time, and that was a great ceremony with all kinds of political and other celebrities. And Tom was there. He was instrumental in that, as I said. And over the years, I saw him speak so many times. He spoke with such passion and eloquence about whatever issue he was talking about. He was a remarkable man because he could speak so well, and he was obviously extremely sincere and dedicated and passionate about the things that he was speaking about, especially in terms of human rights, but also in the other kinds of issues that had direct impact on Pacifica, such as Sweeney Ridge and other open space environmental kinds of issues. He was the most passionate and sincere elected official. We don't say politician anymore, the elected official, but of any that I ever met. He was the most I can't think of the word, sincere, passionate, those are the words that come to mind. That he really meant what he said, and he felt it, and he communicated those feelings. When he spoke about, he would come and do his town hall meetings, and it didn't matter if a person got up to speak about the most obscure or personal issue, or sometimes he would be under attack by somebody criticizing him for some kind of minor, obscure infraction of their belief system or whatever, and he would defend himself with just great strength, it was a very, he was a larger than life kind of person, because you felt this energy coming back about, he really meant what he said. He wasn't just playing the game or saying what he thought people needed to hear. He was willing to say what people didn't want to hear, or that might upset them, or they might disagree with, because he meant it sincerely. He believed in what he was doing, and that's why I think he's gotten so much recognition as an advocate of human rights around the world, because he really did it. He really did mean it. But he's well loved by many Pacificans because of what he has done for our community. And the legacy will always be there. It'll always be Sweeney Ridge in open space. And it looks like we're going to have the double slide tunnels too. So that's Tom Lantos' legacy for Pacifica.
Yeah, you know, for me, I look back to the day that Tom Lantos came to visit Pacifica, the last day he was with us here. In the morning he came, it was November 17th. He came and spoke before the Pacifica Democrats, and then that evening was back to celebrate with all of us at the 50th anniversary celebration at the community center. And something that he demonstrated that at those two events, and also manifested itself at the other times that he came to visit us, was his profound respect for Pacificans. And I think as I've learned more about him from other things that people have said about him at the memorial services, this was something that was such a deep part of his nature as a person, that he could empower. I mean, I felt when Tom Lantos spoke to us, it was like someone giving you this great encouragement and this tremendous positive reinforcement for you living out your most deeply felt ideals. And for me, this was initially my involvement with environmental protection in Pacifica. Specifically, I got most involved with the Maury Point acquisition. But there were other things, as I'm sure other people have mentioned, the funding, original funding for the Sweeney Ridge acquisition, his help with us on the beach renovation at Lindemar Beach, obviously his tremendous effort with regard to the funding, federal funding for the tunnel, this very innovative and extremely important project. And when he came, he also came to visit the solar installation at the sewer treatment plant about a little less than a year ago. And once again, he was so complimentary and so encouraging to all of us about being on that Pacifica was, you know, embodied kind of being on the brave and innovative and at the forefront of the environmental movement and bringing forth the changes that are needed to make this world a better place, less dependent obviously on oil. And in that case, he had admiration for us, and in that way made us feel really good about ourselves and reinvigorated us to continue the work that we felt really needed to be done. So you know, that was a manifestation, I think, of his compassion and his deep love for people. And certainly I learned more about that, once again, hearing other people speak of him at the memorial. In our little corner of his life here in Pacifica, it was just really important, and you know, he'll be greatly missed by us. So, okay, that's all.
Senator Cranston, Senator Hayakawa, Congresswoman Burton, Congressman Shaw, ladies and gentlemen. This is a slightly and deliberately premature celebration of Mother's Day, and in this instance we are celebrating Mother Nature. The saga of Sweeney Ridge is a true Western in the finest tradition. It had its villains and it had its heroes, and it ends in a triumphant, happy,